Hello, DFers! Exclamation point. With so many games coming in hot that require a large patch on launch day, plus subsequent patches over the weeks that follow the release, do you think the consumer trust is slowly
Mm.
eroding away and that we'll start to see more gamers holding off with day one purchases? Interesting question, right, John? Because, man, there have been a bunch of games that just
Ah.
have shipped with issues. I guess if there is a day one patch that actually does the bulk of the job in addressing issues, I don't think it's going to shift the needle in terms of consumer trust because they never get to see the day zero experience,
Mhm.
or that's the bottom line. Um, John, thoughts?
I think consumers are getting used to this stuff, and I think, as you
Yes.
say, if things are fixed like at launch or within a day or so, I think most people are fine with that. I don't like it because it usually means that you're missing something on the disc, right? But it's not actually as wide of a problem as you think. It's just happened with some pretty high profile releases. The problem is more that when you have a game that ships with issues and then it takes a long time to fix those issues, whether that's weeks or even months, that kind of thing does erode some trust, and it creates sort of this negative feeling around the company. And I think that does impact consumers, and they become more aware of that problem. I still think, man, Nintendo's approach to releasing games is so interesting to me, because usually when a Nintendo game is released, not only is it very solid at launch, but as everyone knows, they don't really drop prices very often or by very much. And so they've sort of trained, Nintendo fans to be like, well, I may as well just get this right away because I won't see a price drop for years, if at all. So then they go for it. Whereas with other modern games, I think it's created this situation where consumers see, oh, game X released and it's really buggy. I may as well just wait for a sale. You know what I mean? And then by the time it's on sale, I'll have a patched version. And I suspect that does influence people at large. And it's something that these companies really only have themselves to blame for, right? Because releasing unfinished games and then putting them on clearance 6 months later,
Exactly.
and we see that all over the place. It's constantly happening. Game prices just
Yeah.
drop. The exception of stuff like Call of Duty games don't really go on sale very often, for instance. Especially like the older ones. If you look on PC, for instance, like all the classic ones going back like 10 years even, you rarely see them go on sale, and when they do, it's not by that much. So they've managed to retain their value. But most games, Ubisoft stuff especially, is real guilty of this. They drop steeply, really fast, and are often very buggy at launch. So what's the incentive to buy right away for most people? Not
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah. I think I mean, you've touched on the cost side of it, but then there's also, and I totally agree, it's the value proposition of it. But you've got to think why people are buying at launch. They want to experience the game in line with other people. They want to be part of the conversation. But if you can get over that, if you can just say, "I'll wait 2, 3 months, 4, 5 months, maybe a year to play Cyberpunk," for example, then you're getting a way better, end product, and there's not really much lost. I've certainly taken that mentality myself, where I just don't play well outside of work anyway. Anyway, I just have to play these games sometimes. But I've missed. I put off playing Cyberpunk because I know, now it's way better and I can play and enjoy it now properly. I put off playing another game I think recently, Sonic Origins at launch,
Hmm.
just because I knew, well, there's a boxed edition coming out and that'll probably have the updates and be fixed up. So yeah, I do think it's
That's hilarious,
people
Tom.
understand.
The idea of wait, it's like, well, these games have been out for like 30 years, and they come out. I'm just gonna wait even further for the fixed version of these 30-year-old games. It just
Yeah,
that's
or go back to the
that's
Mega
really
Drive
funny.
versions.
That's really funny.
No, it is. I do want to play that game, just because. But it's yeah. So it's about how much do you trust you put in developers these days to get it right day one. And to be honest, I think people have acclimatized to the situation that most games are released as almost games as a service esque products, and you just get rolling updates to even single player games where previously it would have been just one and done. You release it on a disc or cartridge. in the
Yeah.
90s and early 2000s, and that'd be it.
I will say that's why you got to give kudos to something like God of War Ragnarok, even though it didn't like blow our socks off in terms of visual quality, though it does look good. The game they released was extremely polished at launch. It just came out, it was solid, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. That should be the norm, but sadly it is not.
I guess it really takes an example like Cyberpunk to put people off, though.
Oh yeah, but even then that game continues to sell. People watch all the videos.
Yeah,
on,
because
like,
some might say
huge.
it's because it's fixed. You know,
Yeah,
you've got
I'm sure that it did a lot of damage to them, but it doesn't seem like the damage has stuck, and people are like mostly forgiving now. Like, wow, that was a mess. Now I can enjoy it. You know?
yeah, it is a tricky one. I mean, in an ideal world, the games would just launch finished and proper, which was kind of like how things had to be in the past when you were like baking your code onto cartridges. But right now, when you've got the opportunity to update your code as and when you please, it's just generated a completely different production mindset, really.